All right, good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, December 16th, 2025, 7:04 p.m., and I will call to order this meeting of the Planning Commission. If you'd like to, and if you're able to, would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, I have heard from Commissioner Hammond as well as Commissioner Scussel that they will be absent this evening. But in so much, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Abraham,
Present.
Commissioner Robinson,
Present.
Commissioner Nordmo,
Present.
Chair Hillman,
Present.
and so we have Commissioner Hammond, Commissioner Scusso, and Commissioner Clark on the way. Okay.
Could I have a motion to approve the absences of Commissioners Hammond and Scussel, please?
So moved. A second.
Hearing the motion seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, we'll approve their absences. Has everybody received a copy of the agenda for this evening? Very good. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
I make the motion.
Who said that, Abraham?
No.
Robinson.
Okay.
Second.
Hearing the motion seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, we'll approve the agenda for this evening. Agenda item 4, approval of the meeting minutes. Is everybody in possession and have you reviewed our meeting minutes from our November meeting? Yes.
Yes.
All right. I'll take a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
Hearing that motion seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, we'll approve the meeting minutes from our November meeting. Agenda item 5 is public comment. I do want to let you know, in consideration of agenda item 7B, the master plan update, we did include a second public comment section on tonight's agenda. So you can use either public comment section to comment on whatever you shall choose. However, you do have 2 opportunities to do that. So please, by all means, use both, either or none, as you see fit. Just a reminder that public comments are limited to 3 minutes. And when you approach the podium, if you would please state your name and your street. That's all I got. Any public comment? All right, seeing none. Agenda item 6, old business and tabled items. Austin, we have none. Is that correct?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, then we'll move right along. Agenda item 7A, 2026 meeting dates. Austin, will you lead us on that one?
Yes, so we are, each year in December, we vote to approve the meeting dates for our following calendar year. We meet typically on the 3rd Tuesday of each month at 7 p.m. Going through next year's calendar, there's no conflicting dates. We should be able to meet on each of those dates. We just need a motion to approve it so that we can continue our current meeting date into 2026.
So moved.
Well, Robinson first?
That was Abraham.
Abraham.
And
I'll
second
second.
would be, okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Hearing the motion to approve our 2026 meeting dates as well as a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, we'll approve the 2026 meeting dates. All right, let's move on to agenda item 7B, which is why I assume most people are here tonight. We'll kick it off to Eric and Hannah from Giffords Webster. I do want to say something very briefly in advance of this agenda item, just to kind of set the tone a little bit. Mostly I want to clarify expectations for this commission, but also the public about this agenda item and the commission's role in the master plan update process. This item is properly on tonight's agenda, but I do want to acknowledge some uncertainty about why this commission is being asked to preside over this follow-up, given that we did not lead the prior meeting or plan this one. For transparency, this commission did not receive any advanced material about this meeting beyond what was published online or at any earlier timeline. And for that reason, I understand tonight to be an informational check-in and an opportunity to share ideas, ask questions, and to hear from our partners at Giffords-Webster. I'm here with an open mind, and I'm asking that everybody else please be here with an open mind as well. My hope is that tonight helps surface the right questions, define a clearer timeline, and of course center resident input. So with that, we've got several presenters here from Giffords-Webster, Jill Baum, Eric, I'm sorry, I never know how to say it, Peach. And also Hannah Prinz. All right, I'll let you guys take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, my name is Eric Peach with Giffords-Webster, Senior Planner with Giffords-Webster. Some of you may recognize me from past meetings. But we're really excited to join with you and come together to discuss the master plan, or the update to the master plan. As many of you may recall, back in October, we had a kickoff meeting where we essentially just presented what the master plan entails, and then we wanted to kind of get an idea and a sense from the Planning Commission and the City Council members some feedback to try and begin the process of collecting data and just get a general sense for what strengths, weaknesses, and just a general tone for where the city currently stands in terms of entering into the mindset of where we would like to go with an update to the master plan. So with that, we're going to kind of just dive in. We had the kickoff meeting in October, and so we've put together a SWOT analysis, which is the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats from the information that we gathered at that meeting. So we're going to go over that, the results of that information, just to have that conversation with you to discuss maybe what's important from that, maybe what's not as important, and just figure out a process to move forward with the master plan. We're also going to touch upon the 2021 Comprehensive Plan goals and objectives. So we already have the comprehensive plan in place from the 2021 adoption. So I don't know if you all had a chance to review that prior to this meeting, or at least as we move forward, it's something you might want to get a little bit more familiar with. But then also we'll look at the 2021 future land use map and look at the way that it's currently in place and if there's any interest in making changes to that, especially as it pertains to some of the projects that have come before the Planning Commission in the recent past. When we propose certain uses within districts within the community, especially along Southfield Road, are they more applicable or appropriate for the mixed-use district or within the vehicular, district? And then lastly, we'll discuss the community input. What does the Planning Commission need to know? What information can you offer us so that we can continue to put the data forward, compile the data in a manner where we can start to materialize the information that we have to put forth in the update to the master plan. So with that, I'll turn it over to Hannah, who's going to discuss what is it, the next steps?
The kickoff meeting summary.
Yeah.
So if we think back to October, we had our kickoff meeting. And during that kickoff meeting, we did 2 exercises that invited the public and all of the attendees to give their input and start to kind of guide this master plan update process. The first engagement activity that we did was to determine our guiding principles. And just as a bit of a refresher, the guiding principles are statements that are meant to really direct the strategies of this update and make sure that they align with the community's values and needs right now. And so part of that activity was we gave everyone 5 votes and asked them to vote on several different guiding principle statements. And those were largely split up into 4 categories, and participants could choose to put all their votes in one category or spread them evenly. But pretty much we were looking at community and social values, economy and infrastructure, environmental stewardship, and governance and planning was the framework that we used to get those votes. And then following that activity, you can see in this photo, we had participants split into groups and further refine those principles, the language of them. Sometimes they combined two principles if they felt like both were important. And we have the results from all of that engagement work. We do have the detailed results, but I'll go over them in brief. For community and social values, our top choices for guiding principles were foster a strong sense of community and belonging, and to support diversity in culture, housing, and economic opportunities. And anyone that wants this detailed data, this will be available to anyone who would like it, so just let us know. For economic and infrastructure, the most popular vote was ensure infrastructure is reliable, efficient, and sustainable, support a diverse and vibrant local economy. And then from environmental stewardship, and this was actually the #1 voted guiding principle in your community, was to preserve local heritage and natural landscapes. And then protect natural resources and green spaces came in right under that, and I think they have very similar lines of thought. For governance and planning values, the top vote was base decisions on data, evidence, and best practices, and to encourage civic participation, which we were really excited to hear that because that's how we wanted to start this process off and continue with it throughout the process. So essentially, we wanted to sum those up into really the top 5 to 6 guiding principles, and we did those based off of data and the votes. And these are the results that will be used to guide these strategies for the update. And that's to preserve local heritage and natural landscapes, base decisions on data, evidence, and best practices, encourage civic participation, protect natural resources and green spaces, ensure infrastructure is reliable, efficient, and sustainable, and maintain flexibility to adapt as community needs change. And I think that one's especially important to keep in mind because it's kind of balancing with the first one. So that was our first exercise. And then to end the night, we had a SWOT activity, which is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we're calling it a SWOT, but really we just did the SWA portion of it. We did strengths and weaknesses, and we gave all participants 10 sticky notes and asked them to give their thoughts and opinions about 5 things that they thought were strengths about Lathrup Village and 5 areas where they thought the community could improve, or 5 weaknesses. And when we gathered up all of this data, we were able to draw some common themes and common patterns. You know, what are things that people are writing multiple times over. And we summarized these into essentially a list. For strengths, the participants at that meeting really felt that Lathrup Village's strengths are its character and atmosphere. They felt that the community has a strong sense of safety and community. They felt the strengths lie in its natural features and green spaces, the location in proximity to other towns and Metro Detroit. People wrote mostly about how it's easy to access all of those towns, primarily by car, and then diversity, events and activities, and potential for growth in city services. So those were really the common themes that we were seeing, that people think the community does well and they want to enhance those things or continue to do them well. But for the weaknesses, we did draw a couple common lines, the first being lack of business diversity, and really an identity separate from Southfield. We had a lot of comments about kind of trying to strengthen Lathrup Village as its own entity and brand. The government to resident communications, we got a little bit of content from that. Limited economic growth opportunity. You know, Lathrup Village is, well, pretty built out, so I think people drew attention to the fact that it will take a little bit of creativity to overcome that. Fiscal transparency, the division of neighborhoods by major roads, general community outlook, and park maintenance and aging infrastructure, which are, kind of related, but just in general, kind of updating things, making sure that we're staying on top of infrastructure. And that was pretty much all the results from our engagement activities. And now I will hand it off to Eric, who's going to go over how this all relates to the previous comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Hannah.
Oh, yeah. But first, actually, did any of you have any questions relating to those activities or our data analysis regarding that from the kickoff meeting?
I had a question.
Yeah.
In the past, we've kind of opened it up with surveys to the public. Did we do that again this time, or did we receive? It's coming? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, but anytime you want to discuss any of the slides or any of the information that we're talking about, by all means, that's what we're here for tonight. So we can always backtrack and come back to that. So the good news is with this master plan update, it's not a full rewrite. So it's just updating what we already have. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. However, we want to look at and keep in mind, take into consideration where we've been over the last 5 years, particularly as it relates to what types of developments has the Planning Commission been faced with over the past 5 years, from the most significant being that of, the school redevelopment, or just some, standard tenant space reoccupations along the existing thoroughfares. So keeping all of those in mind as we move forward and thinking at what point or in what areas of the master plan would there be more consideration to maybe take some things into consideration, especially based on, again, what we've looked at in terms of development activity over the past 5 years or so. So the next few slides, here we go. Is that the next one? How do I go back? Oops. Sorry, I can get used to this mouse here. Wrong direction.
There you go.
Is that the, okay. There we go, okay. So what is a comprehensive plan? Again, this is what we're tasked with right now. Comprehensive plan is a long-range vision for the future of the community. So a lot of the times, as I mentioned, when we take into consideration the developments that come before us, whether it's just an administration review of a proposal, or if it's a proposal that requires Planning Commission oversight, or a proposal that potentially requires a variance, a dimensional standard from the ordinance and whatnot, that would go before the Zoning Board of Appeals or the City Council. What we typically do in those cases is not only refer to the zoning code to adhere and make sure that there's compliance of the existing codes, but we also want to look at the comprehensive plan or the master plan, make reference to the future land use map so that we have an understanding of whether or not what's being proposed and reviewed aligns with the intention of the master plan. Or if there's a case where it does not, then we want to know ahead of time what it is that might not be in alignment. And so the master plan is a very important document that, once adopted, it lives on and is very impactful in order to kind of keep the bumpers on in terms of the developments that come before the city. And it helps the Planning Commission, the city staff, as well as the consultants in making decisions and determining certain factors as we review applications for permit and for Planning Commission consideration. So number two, it will serve as a guide for how the city can become the place it strives to be. So I basically essentially just discuss that with the conversation on topic number one. So again, this is just a way to keep the city in check, in line with what types of goals and intentions the city has for itself in moving forward. And so there may be a grand plan, that everyone wants to get on board with, a walkable community, developing the downtown area. But if that's kind of where we would like to see ourselves, what's the goals and the implementation of objectives over the short period of time? Well, a lot of those things, to refer back to come into play because they're documented in the master plan. And so that's why we rely so heavily on that, is to keep us in check. Provides the framework in making big picture decisions. Again, this is all encompassing from the day that a new application for development comes in. That's short term, but also, again, referring to the master plan to make sure that it aligns with what the community has documented in terms of the adopted master plan. It directs development in different areas of the community. That's kind of a no-brainer. Here in Lathrup Village, as we all know, a lot of our activity comes from Southfield Road. And then the other major thoroughfares such as, is it 10 mile? 12 mile, thank you. So the major thoroughfares, the major corridors where there's commercial developments. And as we know, a lot of the challenges with redevelopment along those corridors is the challenge of parking requirements. And so that might be something that the Planning Commission would want to raise as something to explore in ways that we could potentially get creative with how off-street parking requirements are treated in the master plan, so that when developments come along, they're not immediately discouraged because they can't satisfy the parking requirements of the zoning code. For example, there's multiple things that we can touch upon, so if you have any ideas, that's again why we're here tonight, is to bring those to the table. So, and then lastly, the master plan promotes and strengthens valued community assets and encourages new partnerships and opportunities. So I think Commissioner Hillman, it was very well said in the sense that we hope that there's an open mind, because this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of having a conversation about what the 2021 master plan currently has within it. We think of that as a document that allows us to think forward and into the future, but we also want to take a step back and look and see if there's any challenges with that or any bumps along the way that we might have encountered over the past 5 years or so, so that we can keep an open mind to see if there's a way that we can implement a little bit of change to improve upon the existing document. So. There we go. So the elements of the community, we're looking at the built environment, the conversation that we had with the school. That's, the approved plan that was done a few months ago this year will have significant changes to the built environment within the community. So, we just want to keep that in mind, like what types of impacts will that have on the community, whether it's the reuse of existing buildings on Southfield Road, the redevelopment of them, higher densities, and that sort of thing. What does that look like? And can the master plan lay out the framework for having a built environment that is reflective of what the community desires? The local economy, of course, we look at the city being essentially surrounded by the city of Southfield. So there's a lot of similarities in that respect, but at the same time, as Hannah mentioned earlier, we at the kickoff meeting, we're looking at how the city is divided into 4 or 5 different sections that essentially have different characteristics, simply because they are split by corridors, that being Southfield Road, 696, and the like. So we just want to take into consideration how the context of Lathrup Village fits into the local economy and the greater surrounding area. And so a lot of that is interconnected with infrastructure and mobility. We know that Southfield Road is the type of thoroughfare that's intended to efficiently get vehicles from north to south and to connect to east-west corridors. But at the same time, the current master plan has the Village Center District as more of a walkable area. And so there's been some history with the city, taking a stand and communicating that that's the envision that the residents of this community are leaning towards, is recognizing the importance of Southfield Road and its practical functionality, but to also take into consideration the residents that live here who may desire more of an interconnection between the west side of Southfield Road and the east side of Southfield Road, especially in the Village Center District, and then other strategies outside of that district to connect the different districts where there may be, separation that acts more as a challenge than a benefit. So the natural environment goes without saying. We are a built-out environment, or a built-out city. And so areas and ways that we can protect the natural environment through parks and recreation, mobility through, the bicycle lanes and the bicycle thoroughfares, multimodal transportation, Southfield Road again, whether it's a positive or a negative thing, it has bus transit, so that could also act as an asset to the community in making those connections regionally. The social and cultural fabric, again, I think just the past few years that I've been here, I've come to appreciate the contributions to the historic significance of the community, which of course has a lot of cultural and social ties and foundation to it. And so I think one of the things that this community has that is an asset to it is the amount of public participation that shows up at meetings to voice opinions, concerns, and support for the proposed changes that come before the Planning Commission and the City Council and the like. So I think that second to last social and cultural fabric should not be underestimated by any means. And then the things that make up our community, so this could just be a broad range of anything, so that's why the sky's the limit in terms of, if you have any ideas with tonight's conversation, or anything that you would just like to bring to light that we can talk about, who knows, it could be, something that we really latch onto and take into consideration moving forward. So, and again, that all comes down to the vision. So, again, we have the adopted master plan in place that has a vision for it, but, now's the time that if we want to go in a different direction or just continue on, maybe with some similar type enhancements to the vision. Currently, that reads, the Lathrup Village seeks to be a vibrant new urban destination that is characterized by walkability, economic sustainability, and business diversity to augment its sterling reputation as a historic residential community. Choose Lathrup. And again, I think what I take a lot of value from is, again, the public participation. And I think the Planning Commission is well-versed in the way that they handle the different projects that come before them when they consider, approval of certain developments. And it always seems to kind of just conjure up this ingrained vision that the community has for itself. It's only so large. It has a very unique style to it in terms of the historic housing stock. It has unique challenges as it relates to the existing infrastructure along Southfield Road, the major corridor. As much as we would like to see redevelopments and a breath of fresh air, so to speak, into the older infrastructure, there still is a lot of unique character in terms of the way that it is laid out today. So there are a lot of challenges with that, and it's something that the master plan addresses. And so take it as a good responsibility of yourselves to be able to have some sort of influence over that as we discuss the future of the community. So the goals, what does our vision look like? We have this conversation, all the time, whether it's specifically stating what are our goals or just when discussing the different elements of different plans that come through the DDA and in the city for review. And then what does that look like in terms of policy? So when we address the master plan, we also want to make sure that there's alignment with the zoning code and all other codes within the city. So, so it's important that, if we do deviate away from the existing master plan in any significant extent, that we would want to look at, the different policy that's in place and the different rules that are currently in place. So then the goals are also what help the community make up land use decisions, allocating resources, and providing leadership in land use and community development. And I know that Lathrup Village is pretty involved in their capital improvements document, and so that's also aligned with and is mentioned in the master plan that you put forth all of these details and information for what you would like to see, whether it's, part of a plan or if it's like hands-on, tangible, new trucks for public works and the like. The master plan should be an all-encompassing document that addresses all different angles of the current state of the community. So looking at the current master plan again, this is from 2021, the adoption that was done previously. In each one of these slides, you'll see a statement where it says, what do we want? And this is in regards to community character. I'm not gonna go through all the little details, but hopefully you had a chance to glance at this. If not, we can come back to each one of these slides. But for community character, for example, it says we want an authentic, positive identity for the city that is reflected in residential neighborhoods as well as along commercial corridors that focuses on mixed use, multi-story, walkable downtown for the city. And so, again, if you've been a part of any of the last 5 years conversations at Planning Commission meetings, or if you've listened to them, you'll see that there's a lot of focus on mixed use, the mixed use zones within the Southfield Road corridor, and in addition, the Village Center District, which encourages and allows for higher density developments, which allows for more of a walkable sense of destination, sense of place. And I think with that comes, your design standards that can be enhanced as well. So in a sense, this community character, the way that the current master plan is written, and it allows for or encourages continued vision for the future of Lathrup Village, as opposed to just being, the reuse of existing buildings with a spree of parking out front. This is a way that we can get creative with the intention and the vision of the master plan. And so for housing, we're looking for attractive, safe, quiet, and well-maintained neighborhoods, a diversified range of housing for people of all ages and abilities, and active neighborhoods that promote community connectedness. And I think the biggest example of this over the last little while anyways has been the discussion over the school redevelopment. And in terms of, upholding the housing that we currently have, but ways to explore additional housing, whether it be for purchase or for rental housing, and the best ways to address that. So again, if there's any concerns or observations that the Planning Commission would like to make in terms of housing, which is becoming more important by the day, it seems, then that should be something that we can look forward to having a conversation about how we envision the city's housing stock moving forward. Commercial development, what do we want? A thriving local business and an employed workforce, a convenient selection of goods and services, and a diverse tax base with a resilient economy. One of the things that, in addition to just the obvious redevelopment of, any given building, would be the conversations that we had recently in regards to cryptocurrency and check cashing facilities. I think that's something that you can kind of connect the dots with on something like this, that being the commercial development, that we want responsible development. We want quality development that serves the needs of the residents of the community and those, potentially passing through. Before coming to this meeting, we had a nice meal at Panera Bread, and it's something that, someone who doesn't live in the community can certainly, enjoy and understand the context of a business such as Panera as being something that can service, someone who lives outside the community as well. So again, lots of opportunity for discussion on that as we move forward. Oops. I'm gonna get it right. Community character. So this is kind of like an all-encompassing vision here. So the recreation facilities and programming that meet the needs of and are accessible to all residents, well-maintained infrastructure that meets the needs of current and future residents, businesses, and visitors, and excellent public services that meet the health, safety, and welfare and the needs of the community. I think what I'd have to say about this is, the assets of the parks that you have in place that would be there to protect and maintain, which I understand is something that we'll have some positive change to in the coming months. But also the festivals, that has a lot to do with the community character. The music festival in September, I think it is.
Mhm.
Yeah. But those types of things that really draw people from both inside the community and outside the community, that give the community a sense of identity. And then, of course, the residents, by all means, those who rest their heads here at night, have every bit of participation in creating the community character for the city. Backwards. There we go. So transportation and complete streets, again, it goes without saying, it's kind of a defining element, that being Southfield Road and 696. They can be looked at as detriments, or we can tackle them in the master plan to be assets to the community. What ways can we maximize their potential to work for everybody and not just cars? So what we want here is an efficient and safe multimodal transportation network that offers mobility options to residents of all ages and abilities. And so what my mind goes to first and foremost is the 3 new crosswalks that are on Southfield Road as kind of the first intentional feature that has been taken to soften the separation of Southfield Road from pedestrians specifically. It's also somewhat difficult to leave this facility. So at the end of the day, making a left-hand turn onto Southfield Road, is a conflict, or it's a complication. And so what are the ways that we can continue to look at, making Southfield Road a more accessible, safe environment for not just cars, but for pedestrians who live near or on Southfield Road. Okay, so the future land use map, we have the existing zoning map within the zoning ordinance that tells us, how we can use land currently. But what we also look forward to is what types of land uses are within the future land use map, so that if it's different than what the zoning ordinance currently identifies it as, then we have a better understanding of how a certain proposal or development may or may not meet the vision of the city by way of the future land use map in the master plan. So for all intents and purposes, I believe it's relatively the same as the zoning code or the zoning map. But we can discuss any potential changes or observations you'd like to make to carry on further conversation in regards to that. Okay. I'll take a breath. I'm getting kind of scratchy anyway. So any questions on that content, or just anything you'd like to throw out there?
I'm a little disappointed in not hearing or having or being able to read the actual at the granular level what people were saying in the exercises to date. We didn't get any of this printed material before this meeting, and those first 2 or 3 slides that summarized that discussion that a lot of people came here to make comments on was just glossed over. We didn't even have a chance to visually read it. Sometimes something that is not at the top of general agreement provokes discussion and interest, and through the discussion it comes to become a dominant new theme. So I certainly, I was prepared to spend all day looking at this material, and I had none of it before me, and I don't have it before me now in any meaningful way. So that's my comment.
I had a quick question on one of your slides for commercial development. You said the goal is to have an employed workforce.
That's the current the current language of the master plan. That's the statement that's taken from there. Did you have a more specific, like?
Can you elaborate what employed workforce?
I think it just.
Because we have a number of retirees in this village, so that's why I'm trying to figure out what sort of a,
Well, I think it's in regards to or associated with the commercial development.
Okay.
So it's intended to mean, and maybe you can correct me if I'm not on the mark with it, but to have an employed workforce that is gained through certain development or commercial development within the city, that it employs the residents that live here. Does that?
Yes.
So Jill had worked on the 2021 master plan and has more familiarity with how that was all
Hello.
conjured up, so.
This refers to the workforce that is in the city. So retirees would be not part of that, but the people who are in the workforce, that they're employed.
okay.
So that there are meaningful employment opportunities locally for the residents of Lathrup Village.
Okay.
Such that they don't necessarily have to travel great distances, and that we have businesses here that generate those employment opportunities. That's what that stands for.
Understood.
And I think it would be a good point, just to your point, just to clarify too, that this is just one meeting that we had. That was the one kickoff meeting. We haven't done any other community engagement yet, so we don't have a significant amount of discussion to base more things on at this point. This is just really the summary of the one meeting that we
Well,
had
I don't want
with
you-
the planning
I'm sorry.
commission and
I'm sorry.
city council.
Yeah. I just don't want you to come back with your generalities based on a lot of granular detail that was presented by various members of the public and ourselves
Correct.
in the previous meeting. So we're not really going from that meeting to
Nope.
to deal with the detail at this point.
No, we're not.
getting
We're
more-
presenting you with the summary of that meeting for your comment and discussion.
Yes.
So we're not saying that anything that we presented here is the be-all and end-all. We're saying this is what we heard from the meeting. Tell us what you think about that. What
When
did
will we get the full detail of the meeting? This wasn't on your, I didn't see this on.
We'll provide the rest of that information that we showed you today. But we did, if you'll recall, at the meeting, when we talked, we had the guiding principles, we had all the things that we had the dots with, and we talked about that as a group. And the items that were on that list, the guiding principles, if you can go back to that slide, that was the consensus from the participants at the
But you
meeting.
also had the strengths and weaknesses.
Yes,
And,
that we'll give you. We'll absolutely give you those things.
yes, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. This was just intended to provide you some general background for discussion. And really what we're gonna do and what we'll talk about in the next small section, when we get to that, is what else do we wanna know? So Attorney Baker mentioned, are we gonna survey the rest of the community? Absolutely. But we wanna make it worth the public's time. We wanna make it focused. We don't wanna just ask a bazillion questions. We wanna know what information does the Planning Commission want to know to help you make a decision about this comprehensive plan. So I'll reiterate, this is not our plan, this is your plan. We just help you put it on paper. So when we bring you information, we're not telling you that this is absolutely the way it is. We're saying, here's what we heard. Tell us what you think about that. So this is intended to be a dialogue.
I have a few quick things, if you don't mind. Eric, would you mind sliding, sorry, I don't know if it's up or down, to the slide that features the zoning map?
And that is the future land use map.
Thank you.
And I think it's a good observation that you called it that, and then I'm gonna correct you, because we do that all the time.
Okay.
The future land use map, again, as Eric said, is the general guide for the development in the city.
Sure.
It's our vision of what we see for the future. The zoning map is the one that has the rule of law. Master plan or future land use map is our policy guide, does not have the rule of law, but our zoning map does. So our zoning map, because it's our legal framework for how we allow land to be developed, has to be based on our future land use map.
As
So
of
they're
today,
different.
is there a difference? Is there a real difference between the future land
No.
use map and the zoning map?
No.
Okay, so it's just a matter of semantics in this meeting.
Well, right, because and they're required to be in alignment.
Sure.
So where you might see in another community some discrepancies between what they have on their future land use map and where they have in zoning is maybe a larger community or a community that's growing, where they may say, well, we envision institutional uses over here. Maybe they plan someday they're gonna have a school or something. But they'll say, well, but we're not ready for that because we don't have the infrastructure to support that. So that might be a case where they're not in alignment, but here, you're pretty much in alignment.
Sure. So 2 quick comments on this slide. First, and very briefly, I'm colorblind, and I cannot see the difference between office and mixed use. I don't know if there's a way of modifying this map.
We can
It's an
certainly-
accessibility thing that's very specific to me,
Yes.
but those all look the same to me.
That's a great comment,
Um,
thank you.
Second, I do know that there's been lots of discussion about various spaces along Southfield Road and the Mile Roads, particularly pertaining to small office buildings that don't seem to have the life that they probably used to decades ago. Many of which are being used as salon suites and other businesses such as this. So I think it would be nice for future discussions to really focus on this future land use map because, at least in my opinion, it's very probable we have some elements of this map that might have made sense in 2021 or 1961 or 1951 that may not be entirely relevant, or if that's the right adjective, going
Right.
forward. So, general question. These various slides, is there a plan to engage the community in terms of updating all of those bullet points under the broad categories? So if you like tick back a few,
On the goals,
yeah.
yes.
Can you just go to one of the goal slides, Eric?
Yep.
So these goals,
Yeah.
for example, Jill, I know you were around in 2021. I don't think Jill, Hannah, or any of us four were. I see Bo in the audience. I know he was, and I think Jason was, but of course he's absent tonight. So I don't have much to contribute to these slides today. I don't know if the rest of the team does or not, because this is the first we've
Right.
seen of them. So Eric, you asked at the beginning if we'd had a chance to review the 2021 plans in advance of this meeting. At least my short answer is no,
Okay.
because we didn't receive them and we didn't know this meeting was happening, at least in this capacity, until 6 days ago. So I would like to see going forward earlier access to this, and I think this is speaking to Dennis's remarks a little bit as well. We are truly viewing this in real time along with everybody else watching on TV and watching in the room. And so I might have more to say about these individual slides had I had them a week ago or 3 days ago or even yesterday, right? So a general recommendation I have going forward is for we, I don't know who that is when I say we, but some combination of we, make these presentations available publicly and for our own use and consumption a lot sooner, because, you know, I'm of course listening and thinking as I go, but my words aren't completely caught up with all of my ideas yet, so.
And that's okay. This isn't the only meeting we're gonna
Sure.
have. We're gonna have a lot of discussions. You're gonna be tired of talking about the master plan after
Okay.
a few more months. And sometimes it's nice to have the presentation so that when you do go back in to read the document, you'll have a little bit more context for what it is and what we're talking about. The way the goals were laid out, and they can be done in any kind of a different way. The last time we did this, we were trying to make the goals and the objectives a little bit more relatable or easier to understand by saying, what do we want? So instead of just saying, we have a goal about commercial development and here it is, but we're saying, really, like, what do we want to see? Why do we want to see it? So you'll see under there, why, provide meaningful, well-paying jobs for residents, provide entry-level jobs for younger residents, and offer access to local goods and services for all residents. So that's our why. That's why we want the thriving local businesses. Where? We want them throughout the city. Local goods and services should be accessible locally. Regional employment should be accessible to regional transportation facilities. So we're tying that now, we're expanding a little bit. We're saying, what else are we gonna have to look at? We go to the potential obstacles or related considerations, which I'm gonna have a very hard time reading from here. But that category is, and you'll see it in each one of the goals, what are the other things that we have to be thinking about? What else do we have to be mindful of when we're thinking about this goal? So it was a way of helping us get our arms around each one of these goals, and they each have separate things. This all can be updated and refined. So, and we wouldn't do that tonight necessarily, because we really haven't heard from the community. So this is really intended to be a very introductory kind of guide to the elements that we're gonna be focusing on in the next several months. So, I guess I'll leave it there for a moment,
No,
if that
thank you.
makes sense.
It's
And-
nice, it's nice to hear, and I certainly think we should prioritize a collective effort to revisit and update these goals in
Yes.
some type of methodical way that the community can provide as much input into as possible. So
Mhm.
it's nice to hear that's coming.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Anybody else? Eric, have you caught your breath yet? Do you want to keep going?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Actually, that was the end. I don't know.
I think it is. I think the next couple of slides, we're gonna be on engagement, but I think we would like to find out from you more, what the best approach might be. We do have, and I don't know that we wanna put it up yet, our engagement platform, because it's not necessarily, like, I think we wanna get a better handle on what kinds of engagement we're gonna put up there. We can do surveys. We'll announce the open house. So those are our two big components that we have for engagement during this process. We also wanted to touch base on, in the 2021 plan, we had identified 5 planning neighborhoods, and we talked a little bit about that at the joint meeting. The idea of just kind of based on geography, based on our physical boundaries that we have of 696 and Southfield Road, really making an effort to engage in those areas. And I think that will help as we are thinking about, maybe we're thinking about the commercial development goal, or maybe we're thinking about the transportation goal. That might mean something different based on where you live in the city. So I'd like us to kind of be thinking about whether we want to target those specific 5 neighborhoods. We can do that through our platform, and ask specific questions in those areas as well. So that's an opportunity. There may be certain things, though, that you already have in mind that you would like to find out from the community what they think. Housing, transportation, commercial development, what am I forgetting?
Parks.
Parks and Recreation. We will be starting work with the Parks and Recreation Committee on the recreation plan. It's part of the comprehensive plan. We're going to kick off with them in January. So all of this will be related. So if there's certain topic areas that you want to explore, we can do that as well. Our online platform, we can use a variety of tools there. We can do open comments. We can do survey questions. We're finding that we don't do the long surveys anymore because people get tired of surveys. So if we break them down by topic, we tend to find that we're going to get a little bit better response rate from folks, and let people kind of pick and choose their own adventure, if you will, on what is most interesting to them. So that's kind of where we would recommend that we go next. And to follow that, what we might do is bring that to you for the next meeting, where we talk about, what the potential questions might be, let you feedback to us, we don't like this question, or we actually want to add another question, can you change the wording here? And then we can make that live on our platform. I think that might be a good approach.
Sure. Thank you for bringing up this previously drafted neighborhood map.
Mm-hmm.
I myself, in this capacity, but also just casually, have heard neighbors talking about the city in terms of these distinct neighborhoods. In any number of capacities. So for example, I know council has just created a new communication committee, maybe that's what it's called, and perhaps a map similar to this one with, community captains or whatever throughout the
Awesome.
neighborhood to improve communication across the board could align with this type of map. This is
That would
very
be great.
unrelated, but I know Rick is here, and I've heard Rick comment to the effect of perhaps our council should be representative in the form of a map like this, drawing from individual precincts versus just 5 council people at large. So I just bring up those examples to say I think there is active discussion about how our small city can be kind of divided and conquered into smaller quadrants or planning neighborhoods. And perhaps it's worth thinking about if this map makes sense going forward. I won't say much more about it, I'm rambling a bit, but my initial impression looking at this map is we've got a few very large neighborhoods smack dab in the center of town, with a very small one at the southeast corner of town. And how does that factor into fairness or whatever else? So maybe it's worth, as a community, looking at this map and thinking if there's a better or improved way of dividing it.
I think there are stages of analysis where this is useful. For example, I think of a child growing up in Lathrup Village. I've seen so many, working for the city of Detroit, I hear about, oh, we have this, and we have this, and this. But for a child growing up in that neighborhood, he has nothing. Child growing up in this neighborhood, he has 5 things. So for some purposes, this is very good. In that little purple neighborhood, is there any kind of walk to park
Sure.
experience of any level? And in the one across the street on the left, isn't it true that the only park facility is up in the upper left-hand corner? And what does that mean for somebody growing up 3 blocks, 4 or 5 blocks south of that? It's not a very convenient location for a park to serve the area. In the orange, or my colors are, my color names, I only learned primary colors, I'm sorry. That big one in the middle.
Yes, good.
You know, I know there's some park facility in there somewhere, but it seems to me it's way off at one end. What does that mean for a child growing up at the other end? But on the other hand, we also need to think of the city as a whole. In terms of new housing, well, in terms of the function of the mixed-use area, I think we need to have some visioning for, other than, can we get a new tenant for that commercial space? We know we don't have a diversity of housing in the area, in that it costs so much now to break into the housing ownership for young people who are paying off college loans. And when my dad bought our first, well, he made our first house with $75. But when we, and that's the house that I was born into. But when he came back to move back to town, and when I was going into 4th grade, he bought a 2-family house for twice his annual income as a factory worker. Today, who gets a starter house for just their annual income or twice that? Who can buy a house in this neighborhood for twice their annual income? We do need some kind of phase-in. We have an aging population compared to the rest of the county, and we're not offering the kind of phase-in housing that is going to have to look different from the housing we have had. And I see, I mean, we've talked about apartments, and we made a big move in that direction, but what about townhouses? Just spent some time in England, and in just town after town, it's really built up primarily of townhouses. And good sturdy townhouses. I mean, they're very well made. They're made to last. Can some of that land along Southfield and even 12-mile introduce that kind of housing. I think it can. I even toyed with the idea of, and I know some people are afraid of the possibility of conversion of business to loft. Well, could that be done in a way that makes sense for this community, which prides itself on being a step-up community? It's not a rock bottom, move in at the very lowest possible cost kind of community. But still we have very poorly used business frontage that could be nicely developed into a very classic kind of loft housing. So those are kind of ideas I want to talk about and get interaction on. And those don't always fit with this idea of one neighborhood at a time.
I think Dennis brings up a fantastic point here, especially with parks and housing. In that example you used of a child living in the southeast quadrant, what access do they have to parks related to a child who is living in the upper northwest quadrant? And that is what we're here today to do, is we're not even at 40,000 feet right now. We're still at the airport. So we're looking for what questions do we need to answer. So, and Dennis has brought up some fantastic examples of housing with us, how it could be fit in with the current layout on Southfield Road or 12 Mile. And that's what we're really looking for all of you today is, what do you want to know? What do you want Giffords Webster to ask the community? What information do you need to make the decisions for us to finalize this master plan? So think about that as we have this conversation, is what information do you need? What information do you want? And what do you want to compare with the different aspects and different elements and different areas of the city and the community?
Do you have the surveys that have gone out previously? Maybe for the last, say, 3 to 4?
Yeah, we have those.
And it would be nice to see the progression and how the requests have changed, how the questions have changed, what the importance in ideology, what the changes are in ideology, and how it's changed over, say, a period of 10 years or 15 years. I think you do this every, 5 years?
Right. The state of Michigan requires that communities who have zoning and a master plan review their plans every 5 years. You don't have to update it necessarily, but communities are required to review them. The city has done a good job of keeping its plans updated and has done so since before we were the planners here. So we do have, they will be, they're not
much
apples.
long before you were the planner.
Yeah,
so.
true.
There was a large gap in time
Where there
we
wasn't
did
any
not have
planning.
updates and regularly looked
That's
at
true.
these documents.
They won't be apples to apples, because I don't know that, I'm trying to think of the last two.
And we're not looking for
Yeah.
apples to apples, just looking at
General,
this
Sure.
is what our concerns were.
yes.
At this point in time, this is what our concerns were, or this is how we progressed from the original concerns, and now these are the concerns.
Yes.
And just to see the shift.
Yeah, and even to go with that, maybe some of the demographic changes,
Yeah.
like what's the age gone from and to, and what's the breakdown of the community that
Absolutely.
way? And does that have any influence on how people are answering those questions? Yeah, I think that's great. We can definitely do that.
Yeah.
What else?
Yes, Ms. Abraham.
I think some of the questions that might be needing answers as we deliver this information to the community, I think it needs to be something to help understand what this means from an economic perspective. We have to live in the next 5 years, and so I think as we ask people questions about plans, we need to really realize that their time frame personally might differ from the city's. And if they have some concerns about, will this mean taxes are going to go up, or is Lathrup Village still going to be affordable, and whether or not that has an impact on some of the master planning ideas. Somehow I think we should be prepared to answer those kinds of questions both as a planning commissioner as well as when those questions might go out to the community.
Yeah, that's a great one, thank you.
One thing that we need to examine in terms of our business and frontage is what is the function of that in the larger area. I remember getting my special shoes down at Hacks on Grand Circus in Detroit, and then it moved here, and then it moved somewhere north of, I don't know, north of Somerset or somewhere long ways away. Population has changed, the concentration of wealth has changed, has moved. Lathrup Village used to be between northwest Detroit and Birmingham, and it was a good landing spot for things that served people with higher incomes. And some people miss that very much, that we don't have that type of business anymore. But since 1951, I mean, people have developed Somerset and Auburn Hills, and whole populations have moved. We are in quite a different economic setting than we were. So I don't see, I see there was reference made earlier to what we see when we walk on Southfield Road. We see a lot of empty office spaces, empty retail spaces, and we see things that are basically clearly reaching for low value renting and low value development. And it appears that the businesses that are here, that are coming in, are not really aimed to float on the Lathrup Village economy. They are just very public sites for businesses that serve the vaping community, the laundry needing community, communities that have a perceived need for certain services that are well beyond the city boundaries, but yet are kind of low value needs. So maybe there's a need to rethink what the business strip is there for, what that space, it's really not necessarily there to be a business strip if it's mixed use. So what's the best use of Southfield Road space, long parts of it that are empty or poorly developed? Is it just to grab back some businesses that used to be here? I don't think so. Is it to just develop some kind of retail that will reach out 5 miles in each direction? Not necessarily. That may not be as good a development as creating some kind of residential space that will give us a more concentrated population base in the community and give entree into the community for people moving from, say, a rental apartment to a townhouse to single-family detached housing as they progress in their careers and their incomes. Enough said on that.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Dornmo. I appreciate listening to your, oh, I'm sorry.
I know that I normally don't speak at these, but I think you were very spot on in kind of what you said. And Austin and I talked extensively about this. I realized about the type of office buildings. I ran into a lady and all she wants is to open up a rental hall, a banquet hall here. So Austin and I pondered the buildings. And most of these buildings, I'm not sure what the term is for them, where there is no main floor. You go in
Bi-level.
bi-level, you have to walk down so many stairs, basement, walk down so many stairs to go upstairs, and that's not what she's looking for. And as you were talking, it dawned on me that I see that, though, in a lot of apartment buildings. And there's a very nice apartment complex at Outer Drive near Wyoming, where you go in and it's one flight down and one flight up. But some of our office buildings are really not what people are looking for because they're not ADA compliant. There's no elevators. They think it'll be too expensive to put one in. So I just thought you brought up a great point. And I just wanted to remind everybody that so many of our buildings do not have a main floor as we go forward with this.
Sure. I appreciate that, Clerk, and I appreciate you, Commissioner Normo, for sharing some of your vision. Perhaps it's half-baked at this point. I know you're just kind of jamming at the moment, but for for as much as I appreciate your visions, I also appreciate Mr. Cantor's and Mr. Ferguson's and Shelley's and Rogers and Rick's and everybody else's in the community. And so what I would like to see as part of this process is even more opportunity, and it sounds like it's coming, for all residents, all board members, to share in kind of a collective jam session, if you will, to continue my metaphor. To specifically reimagine some of these spaces like you were describing that don't seem to fit a 2025 purpose as well as they might have fit a 1965 purpose. Commissioner Normo, you mentioned the possibility or the future of something like townhouse development along Southfield Road or 12 Mile Road. That isn't the first I've heard of it. I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure I've heard from at least, correct me if I'm wrong, forgive me if I'm wrong, Councilman Jennings sharing similar ideas. So I would imagine that there are many people in the community that would really jibe with those ideas and perhaps many people in the community that might oppose them. So what I'm looking forward to going forward is an opportunity for everybody to get those ideas out in the open for discussion and consideration and hopefully consensus. My favorite thing about the last meeting we hosted was it was very well attended for as briefly notified as it was. I think if we build it, they will come. And so I think even more will come if we provide them even more advance notice of it. And so I'm here unofficially voting for even more opportunities for people to share visions like our clerk and Commissioner Normo have started doing about how they'd like to see some of these underutilized spaces brought back to life a bit. Anybody else? I'm not sure if you had more to the formal presentation.
I think that was it.
That was pretty much it, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
In the agenda packet, you provided some demographic data. Is that important to go over, or?
That was the same information that we presented at the joint meeting.
Oh,
So we
I see.
can revisit that if that was of interest. But generally, hoping that you'll take some time to look at that 2021 comprehensive plan and see some of the ideas that were in there at the time and how we might refine that
Yeah.
moving forward.
Yeah. I do have one general question, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. You might not know the answer. Commissioner Normo, you mentioned that Lathrup Village's median household income has fallen a bit in the last decade or so, and that's reflective in the data we're looking at. The population has also aged a bit, and I'm curious if there's, I don't know how median household income is measured. Could there be a correlation between an aging population, thereby typically lower incomes as people exit their income earning years, and is there a correlation with age and median household income? Do you know?
Generally or here? Because I don't know that
Okay.
I don't know that you would always make that correlation. It's a good question, and I get the logic there.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily give you that granularity in the census data
Sure.
or always the relationship between the two.
Yeah.
But
But
Yeah.
certainly looking at other factors, so looking at employment, looking at the median age, looking at housing values, looking at the age of housing. I mean, there's a lot of other things that we can dial into, but that's an interesting, we can look into that.
Yeah. I noticed that in many ways, the city of Berkeley and the city of Lathrup Village have kind of flopped on each other in terms of age, but also median household income and some other key demographics. And so I'm curious to know, and this is colloquial, I don't know if this is true or not, at least in my head, Birmingham seems to be a real estate destination for 30-year-olds named Hunter and Madison who just had their first kid and want a new house, right?
Again, the
And
census
so,
doesn't give us that information.
as we're, as we're planning for our future, how probable is it that some of our housing stock might be turned over from an older to a newer generation? Perhaps that newer generation is in their income earning years, and thereby our median household income might tick back up. And what does that mean for what businesses flank Southfield 12-mile, 11-mile roads? And what does that mean for the type of housing we should be envisioning for the future of the city? Does anybody want to talk more about those demographic numbers, or?
No, I think I agree with what you're saying. I would love to be able to have a stab at or take a look at what that change is.
Yeah. Okay. You said the formal presentation reached its end, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, I think this is a good time to move on to agenda item number 8, which is public comment. I know I already said this at our first public comment, but by all means, please approach the podium.
Well, just to put a cap on the meeting so far, could we make sure that the information from the first meeting, the strengths and weaknesses, contributions that were made, that those tables get publicly available, at least through the website and maybe through the newsletter, to get to stimulate discussion about more graphic kind of discussion rather than broad community plan ideas.
Sure, I'll do you one better. How about that? How about at the end of public comment, we'll try to summarize important things we'd like to see
Good.
either posted or shared or acknowledged at a future meeting. The publication of certain resources like the ones you're describing, the presentation we viewed today, as well as some of the ideas we had for future meetings going forward, like the re-envisioning of those neighborhoods or the future land use map. Perhaps at the end of public comment, we can tally up a quick list of things to keep our eye on and stay on top of, if that works for you. Okay, what I was starting to say was, this is a repeat of what I said earlier about public comment, but by all means, please approach the podium if
Tim.
you'd like to.
Sorry, 1 second. One thing that I do want to ask from the community, for the sake of, participation moving forward, because we put in a lot of effort into increasing participation on this. What medium works best for everyone? Is it these meetings? Because I know, not everyone can sit through 2-hour, 3-hour meetings. Is it open houses? Is it online mediums? What medium is going to work best for everyone, just so we can increase and get the most out of our engagement in the future? Don't have to answer it here. You can also answer it, at any point. But that's one question I think we should be asking, is what medium is the best?
Okay. And perhaps some of those who will speak at public comment might have ideas for that as well. No pressure, Shelley. But like I was starting to say, please limit your public comment to 3 minutes. State your name, your street, and keep in mind that public comment is not intended to be a back and forth dialogue. So if you've got questions over the course of public comment, give us a few minutes until everybody's public comment is through, and hopefully we'll be able to address it at the end. So without further ado, hi, Shelley.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Shelley Reeves, and I live on California Northeast. My question, I'm here for the first time as part of learning about the master plan, so I do have some questions that I hope that will be answered. One is related to the future use map. I noticed that my property is actually in the village center. I'm wondering, on previous 5-year master plans, has it always been divided the way it is, or has that changed over years? Or is it possible for it to be changed? Also, kind of what does that mean? I don't want to draw conclusions, but, I do wonder, is that space hopefully dreamed up one day for other development? I, for the foreseeable future, plan to be here as my forever home, but also, if my house is in that line of sight, that kind of might change the direction of where my family might land. I don't necessarily want to be on the edge of new developments, as I'm right behind the new development of the apartment building. But I don't really want to be included in that either. So that's, yeah, my house is right here, this lot. So it's inside the purple. So that's my concern, and I, you know, those questions related. As far as like platform, I think our city's really diverse in age, and I would prefer online. It's just most convenient for me, but I'm comfortable with that use. I think in person, similar to, I didn't attend, but you know, the meeting with the sticky notes, I think might be the way to go with the city, but that's just my own opinion. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, that
Oh,
actually prompted something I hadn't.
I'm sorry, Jonathan, will you state your name?
I'm sorry, what? Yeah,
Will you state your
Jonathan
name?
Terra.
Thank you.
So actually, this is something I've wondered about in the past, because I'm in this area here, along California Drive. I'm actually in here, okay, so not in the city center, but directly across the street from me is city center, and this little semicircle here is city center, but it makes absolutely no sense for that to be city center. That's all established housing at this point. There may be some little things on the edge. I know there's the Bermuda Triangle West is part of this, right? But, so that just prompted me to, you know, bring this up again. What is this stuff over here doing in the city center? So if, you know, as you go forward, think about that. The other thing, if I have time for it, I'm seeking something, and a lot of the people who might know where it is may be in this room. I've been told different things about this, that either some of it is missing, or we have it, or we don't have it, or we have some of it. And what I'm talking about is the blueprints for the drainage system, including the sewers and ditches and so on, in talks with the Historical Society, of which I'm a member, and I'm trying to help them make some progress toward digitizing some of what they have. I was told that a large number of plans were turned over to the city by the Historical Society. They had found, I don't really come prepared for this, so I don't know what year, but fairly recently, a few years ago, some blueprints were found. They were turned over to the city. I hope we know where they are, because I've been told directly in discussing drainage issues in my area that, you know, we don't have the sewer plans, or we don't have some of the sewer plans. So since there are probably more people in this room that know about this than anywhere else assembled at one time, I thought I'd bring that up today.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name's Roger Lynn. I live on San Jose Boulevard. Thank you very much for your presentation, and you know, try to get the wheels turning as far as our thought process. I'm a longtime resident of Lathrup Village, like over 30 years. So I just thought I'd share with you what I think is important, you know, at least to me. The first thing that catches my eye, and I think a lot of other people's eyes, is coming down Southfield Road. And there's been some great improvements over the years, probably in the last 10 years, you know, with Big B Coffee, Jagged Fork, you know, Middle Eats. But there's still those two, you know, not two-story buildings, you know, from probably 50-ish, a few complexes of those. And I'm not sure, I would like to see those things updated like some of the other structures are. You know, it's real important, and we get hundreds, if not thousands of cars coming down our road that either go on to 696 or go elsewhere. And if we can start tapping in on some of those people coming through, putting some good commercial businesses in there, I think that would be a real plus for the city. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit is about some of the green spaces. Some of the green spaces that are available, and Dennis, you were alluding to some of this yourself with your talks, is some of the triangles. There's like 3 triangle areas. I had to write them, had to go on Google while you guys were talking to find out where they are. But like Golden Gate, California, El Dorado, Monterey, Golden Gate in California, and another one is Morningside and Red River Drive and Red River Street. Right now, those are just sort of overgrown, wild, natural areas, but it's so natural and so thick with buckthorn, you can't even get through them. I know there's been some talk about putting some homes on those. Personally, I don't want to see homes on there. I'd rather see the green space saved and use it into either picnic tables, playground area, and I think our playgrounds definitely need to be updated to ADA standards. They're a disgrace, I think. They haven't been touched in years. And I think having good playgrounds, young families coming in. And I just thought I'd just share some of the stuff that's important to me as a resident. Thank you.
Which format?
Sorry?
Which format?
Oh, I like the surveys, and also maybe the group get-togethers, you know, where it's like it was downstairs, you know, a big, something like this, it just doesn't seem to pull that many people, I feel.
Thank you, Roger. Anybody else?
Billy Whitehouse, Saratoga. Thank goodness no one's trying to put a data center here. Like you said with surveys, you know, more than 5 questions. No. We gamify, maybe swipe left, swipe right, might get my attention. And as we decide what direction to go, I think we really need to look at what the future holds. Alluding back to something I touched on yesterday, if we want to have what we want with Southfield Road, we have to control the speed. And how could that look? I think looking at Fashion Mile, Livernois, south of 8 Mile, and how they redevelop that, that could be an idea of widening sidewalks, 2 lanes of streets, parking, boulevard, and then you could control the entire speed zone. And that could be a proposal that you put forward, that if you want to do a boulevard project, this is how Lathrup is going to make it stand with the boulevard project. We're going to slow everything down. We're going to create a downtown community. Now, what can that downtown look like? What is the businesses that are going to be attracted in the future? You know, if you want to see a fun downtown, go drive through Brighton and the little shop that they've created along that, coffee shops, restaurants. What is the future going to hold for people, and what are they going to want to do? Being in real estate, when you pick a home, you pick a lifestyle. So where do you like to dine? What do you like to do at night? And these are the questions that we need to develop of what should the community look like, and what should the opportunities be for the citizens to participate in? What is the future going to look like for employment? What is the future going to look like for housing stock? And what is the future going to look like for population? Population or housing will continue to appreciate, and we have priced ourselves out of that starter family situation. We are seeing the decline of families because when you start a family, a lot of times you don't have the money to buy homes in the area that we're in right now. And that's not going to change unless we get to the point where the population decline is under 2.1, and then we get into a real situation of population decline, and then we might have some extra housing stock at that point. But the way things are going, there are areas that are going to continue to appreciate. There are other areas that are going to be developed or homes renovated, and then they're going to start to appreciate. Like we've seen in Hazel Park, you know, that was one of the last holdouts in Oakland County, except for Royal Oak Township. But Hazel Park has really, you know, come online. It's been embraced, it's been gentrified, it's been developed. We're far past that. We don't have any spaces to necessarily develop as far as land. We have some smaller areas for have conversation multifamily. And yes, If we create the zone with a certain drivability, that will entice the developers to create new developments that will align with that. Right now, everyone's just passing through and there's no reason to stop. This is just a pass through. So I would think if we want to have the downtown that we want, that we should look at in conjunction with the master plan as well as changing Southfield Road. Thank you.
Thank you. I know we met yesterday, but would you remind me your name?
Billy Whitehouse.
Billy. Thank you.
Hi, Autumn Susannis, Rainbow Boulevard. Is that right? Rainbow Drive, sorry. I have sick kids at home. They've been texting me. I went outside to take a phone call. So I missed some things, but I'm gonna try not to be grumpy, sorry. So disappointed in the lack of outreach before your first initial launch. We heard about it 3 days ahead of time in the newsletter that Mike Green put out. It didn't seem like residents were invited. It seemed like it was a committee and council event. How many people attended? 30? When I'm looking at your quote-unquote data, I'm angry that I wasn't there, and I'm angry that it wasn't a SWOT, an SWOT at all, and yet we're being presented with supposed data. It's baloney, guys. This is going through the motions. This isn't how we get a master plan. I would like, your guys are being paid. Giffords Webster is being paid to do this, okay? And we need it done correctly. We need to involve the residents who are the stakeholders here as well as the businesses, but the residents need to be there. And they cannot be given predetermined, I mean, you pick guidelines that were totally unobjectionable. No one's going to object to ensure access to digital infrastructure or promote equity and inclusion for all residents. Of course, we're all going to want that. We're all going to take one of our 5 votes and vote for that. And what about hearing from us about how important parks are? When you get good parks, you do attract young families. It's like, it's all part of the big picture. But like, what about an art center? You didn't put that on the board to vote on, an art center. And Eric, you're acting like the school is an absolute given. And Jill, I've heard you say that if we're lucky, we're gonna tear down all the historic buildings and put up all new stuff. And you look at that comprehensive 2021 plan, and it shows bulldozed houses and new buildings and unrecognizable Lathrup. Lathrup is distinctive, guys. We are special. Our buildings are set far apart from the road, set back, and Panera shows that we don't have to build right to the road, even though the master plan said to do that. We didn't. I don't think we should change the character of our city. We should embrace and understand what's special about here and grow that, not conform to some kind of generic Main Street America, whatever it is. I don't want Giffords Webster to run this meeting. I want us to run this meeting, and I want Giffords Webster to facilitate it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Autumn. Anybody else?
Ian Ferguson, Lathrup Boulevard. I think it's a great start for the presentation. I think it's forward thinking, and I'm entertaining starting fresh, so we can at least kickstart into 2026. There's a couple of observations that I need to have you guys document. Number one, our police department is certified, and as public safety is eroding around us, our police department should be shining further, and I think we should bolster that. We're certified. A lot of other cities don't have that, so I think we need to bring that to the forefront. Second observation, so in 2015, this was way down on the list, and in 2021, it did kind of get honorable mention, but the school board of Southfield and the Southfield school system is on par with Berkeley and Oak Park, and it's rivaling Birmingham right now. A lot of students that go to Southfield live in Lathrup Village, some don't. And I think we need to start to bolster that. There are a lot of changes happening in Lathrup. For example, you mentioned demographics. You can't really get that data, but I'm a 30-plus year engineer who looks like this. There are a lot of other people that look like me that have an engineering degree. There are a lot of doctors that look like me that are doctors and lawyers, and you could dig down into the data. You can say, you could take a survey, African American or Indian or whatever, engineer, doctor, and then you just look at what they make as a salary, as opposed to asking them. You can get that off Google. That's easy to do. Last observation is a lot of people aren't really shopping on the outside anymore. They're online, so that's why you see these pop-ups. But I got to tell you, 2015, building next door to us was a problem because of the owner. The building way down on 12 Mile in Southfield, close to my house, still a problem because of the owner. We need to start to engage those owners. And we have done that past 696, and you see what it looks like now. So I would encourage that we continue the dialogue. And can you just give me some information on the OT on SWOT? Why did we not dive deeper into that side? Just give me that observation, because I didn't get that when you guys made the presentation. And I think we should go forward. But Southfield Schools was never on the radar. We need to put it back on the radar. And I think they're on par. Thank you.
Thank you. Ian, before you sit down, would you mind, just for the crowd's sake, telling us what you mean by our police department being certified?
Well, I think Lathrup Village has gone through a rigorous exercise to certify processes and procedures where they can replicate, or they can repeat. They have repeatability on processes and procedures, and most of those police officers get certified to do that. Southfield does not have a certified police department. I mean, they are licensed to police, but they're not certified by the state. And I think maybe our city manager can expand on my explanation, but I believe that the process is certified, and they came here earlier this year to announce that they've been recertified. So why are we not having that on a bullet point for people who are interested in being safe? Because, like I said, public safety is an absolute nightmare right now, but not in Lathrup Village. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine.
It sounds like our police department has been certified to an extent that is beyond requirement, but worth being considerate of.
It's a certification through MCOLS, Michigan Coalition on Law Enforcement Services. It is, as Mr. Ferguson stated, it's something that is attainable for departments that choose to pursue it. Not all departments, in fact, few departments do pursue it. It is a rigorous process that the department has gone through to obtain that certification. So it is something that is worth highlighting as part of the master plan.
Very good. Anybody else?
Are you allowed to go again?
Sorry, someone's coming up behind you. That's what that meant.
I'll save a lot of my comments for my other life. As a city council member, this is strictly as a resident and as an observer. And yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I know.
I'm John
you're saying
Suzanis.
thank
I
you.
live on Rainbow Drive. And so just as an observer of the two meetings that I've witnessed, and as a resident, I think what would be extremely helpful is if we understood as residents and as city council members and probably as commissioners, given the comments I heard today, if we understood what you thought the long process was going to look at. What are the meetings that you are going to have? What are the objectives of those meetings? So for instance, this meeting I think could have been very productive, but the commission seemed to not quite understand what your expectations were and vice versa. So I would like to see, as a resident, a sort of a longer, view of what you think the process is going to look at, where those points for input and data collection are going to be, and then maybe we can, promote it again earlier, sooner, get more people to participate, but also understand where we're headed with this. There's a lot of good ideas that came out today, but I don't know that we're actively collecting ideas today. I don't think that was the point of that meeting. And so are those people going to show up again and say those ideas again? So that's my only comment. And again, that's strictly as a resident.
Thank you, John. Anybody else? Mr. Whitehouse, it sounds like you'd like another stab at the mic. Is that true?
Oh, sure.
By all means. Then we'll wrap public comment.
So the idea with, how to start, and yes, the question was, where was the PDF from 2021? I saw the agenda, I went to your website, you have a basic, give your feedback. But how are we gonna create the dialogue going forward? And most of the people use Facebook, so they can create a post and they can all argue on it and do all that stupid shit, stuff. But as we go forward, how can we create the dialogue, and what kind of repositories can be created, whether city planning or with you guys, in order to host all these PDFs, these information, so a central repository to redirect so we can have this kind of information at our fingertips. So we know where we can go to make comments, we know where we can go to get the information, the past PDFs as well as the current and going forward, all the different documents and things like that, graphics and things going forward. So I think once we have that central repository, all the startups that I've created, it's always, you create the Google Drive, you have everything set, you create the folders, you have everything. So people say, hey, where can I find that information? Go there, you can look at all the past, you can read all the past conversations, get up to speed, and then we can move everything forward with a informed citizenry, population, community. Thank you.
Thank you.
All of the above.
I just shout something out from the audience because I didn't say what my mode would be. I think just like transportation, it's got to be multimodal dialogue. It's got to be.
I couldn't hear.
I didn't hear you.
I can
Online
repeat
and
it.
in
Yeah,
person.
he's advocating for a multi-pronged approach to engaging residents.
It's a big word.
Mr.
My name
Tamarelli?
is Rob Tamarelli. I live on Dolores. Just one comment. In reviewing the 21 master plan, which I did last night in advance of the council meeting, I was dismayed to see the small amount of responses for which the master plan was built. The master plan to me seemed pretty generic. It was based, when I looked at the transportation section, there was a virtual open house, and the transportation section was built on the responses of 21 individuals. 21 individuals out of a city of 4,000 is less than, or right around 0.5%. If that's what we're basing our master plan on, I think we have to do a better job of communicating and getting the ideas of our citizens. 21 people is a very, very, very insignificant statistical number with regard to surveying the population. So that's what I'd ask for is, let's work a little harder on the communication plan and try and get to 10% of the population at least. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, I've got a few follow-ups if the rest of the commission doesn't mind me starting. I think there's a few that we can tick off quickly. Both Shelley and Jonathan talked a little bit about the village center. I was curious if somebody could speak to when we decided upon a village center and what that means for people in single-family homes within it.
Yes, so that came out of the city's 2009 master plan, and that was the one before we started working with the city. It was a recognition, as I understand it, that, and I'm looking over your shoulder at the map, that that area encompassed in the center, there was a vision to turn that into what was thought to be the original heart of the city, and to bring both sides of Southfield Road together, create that heart of the community, if you will, as a place to both for commerce and civic and community activities and things of that nature. So that's what its roots are.
And I'll add to that as well. At that time, the newly announced plans for redevelopment of Southfield Road with a boulevard is what really, I mentioned it last night during the council meeting, but the intent or the desire from the road commission was not necessarily to slow traffic through Lathrup Village. It was to move traffic from point A to point B as quickly and as efficiently as possible. That's something that the residents came out in full force and made it a point that we were envisioning this village center, and we really did put our foot down at that point in time. I know it was brought up about trying to calm and slow traffic. The reality is the city has very little control and input over what the county is going to do with their roadway. The city did put up a large fight with respect to that, and got the county to look at alternative roadway design layouts, which did, as I mentioned last night, their initial plan, I think there was one turnaround north of the city, and maybe if you wanted to go south to come back north, you had to go into Southfield to come back up. There were no turnarounds south of the freeway. So that's something that we did push for as part of this master planning process. And yeah, at that time, it was envisioned that that central bubble and those properties were rezoned at that time to, and have been since, I believe, 2010, in that village center district. Obviously, the residential properties are legally non-conforming. Nobody's forcing you out of your home. But that is, and I'll just add, that's one of the things that was brought up to council and has been brought up before, is this still, what the community wants? Is this still their vision, is to have this village center district, especially with the recent developments that the Southfield Road redevelopment project probably will not go forward in the fashion that it's been anticipated. So I think that's probably one of the biggest questions that needs to be addressed and answered. And to Bo's point, you need to get more community involvement, because if you only have a handful of the residents that are driving that, then you may not be getting the full perspective of your community.
To that end, I would like to see, when we revisit the future land use map as a community, to at least give some attention to specifically residents who are dwelling within the village center, and if that designation makes sense for them circa the modern time. Mr. Terry, you also brought up blueprints for the drainage system. Of course, none of the four of us have access to that type of documentation from the city, but I would ask Tom and Austin and Mike Green, our city administrator, to perhaps take a second look if those are resources available to him or anyone else who's requesting them. Mr. Lynn, you brought up several points that I'd like to speak to a few of. One is the triangular green spaces, the buckthorn-laden ones that you referred to. This has come up in previous planning commission meetings because at least at some point the city was seeking bids to redevelop those plots of land. I believe those bids are paused, at least we recommended for them to be. I think in addition to these neighborhood maps and future land use maps, we should give some special attention to the very few, albeit them, if that's a word, small, undeveloped city-owned plots of land, because we don't have a ton of opportunities in Lathrup Village to make decisions on blank canvases. We're a very developed place. So some special attention to that. Those parcels of land would be nice. By the way, please cut me off and start talking in the middle of any of these if you have something to add to them. But I'm just rattling through my list quickly. Sorry, I lost the order of operations of who spoke when.
And we can go through our list too.
Sure.
I'm taking notes too.
Sure. Let me knock mine out really quickly. Mr. Ferguson, among your comments, you spoke eloquently about the quality of the Southfield Public School system. I think there's an even broader conversation to have about the Southfield Public Schools as it relates to future land use, because I know McIntyre Elementary School is slated to close after this year. So what does that mean for the community at large, and specifically what does that mean to the portion of the neighborhood that is adjacent to it? Obviously, I presume that land is owned by the Southfield Public Schools, but what role does this commission and this community have in deciding the future of it? I don't know. Between Autumn and John and Bo and others, I think we heard a lot of encouragement of a community-focused approach and multimodal approach to collecting feedback about how this master plan process moves forward. So I would really like to see in the near future, another opportunity for the community at large to come together in a way that's well broadcasted, well advertised, well in advance, so that we can gain even more input about how we should progress going forward than the few bits of feedback we received today. Because to Bo's point, collecting 5 or 6 or 20 or even 100 opinions on these matters only do us so good. And I will reiterate, I really do think that if we build it and if we properly advertise it with enough notice, they will come. I know Autumn estimated there were, I know you weren't at that meeting. I think there were more than 30, I really do. I think the number is closer to 100. So many of the people. Yeah, you're right. I will add, the committees also didn't have much advance notice about that meeting. So in general, I think much more advance notice provides a lot more opportunity for all people to participate in, and I would like to see that going forward. That's all I've got for now. Does anybody else have any responses to the public comments?
Well, I actually do have one response. Basically, I agree with what Roger was saying with regard to the triangle areas. They're green spaces. They're, yes, right now overgrown, but they're also sort of preserve where the deer live. And I'm sorry, I'm just, I'm always looking for, the deer to have somewhere to hide out. So that's just my take on it.
That's not the first time you've said that. You've got a real soft spot.
It's not the first time I've said that.
They're in my backyard.
They hide out behind my work shed.
Hmm.
And it's also a little wooded area, so.
Anybody else?
Yeah, they come and hang out around my lake in my backyard.
Anybody else? Anybody from the table?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the Planning Commission for sharing your comments. Thanks to the community members who came today to share their comments. We did not anticipate there would be many people here to chime in at this point. This was really intended to just be a very early conversation with the Planning Commission to kind of talk about where we were going to go. So it's a very preliminary type event. So thank you for letting us walk you through some of these things. We've got several pages of notes here. One thing I do want to note is on the project website that was referenced, we will, the city's master plan is on the website. It's been on the website since 2021. So, but we're also going to make sure it's on the project website so it's super convenient for people to find it. And we'll put some of the historic plans up there too, because there's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. You've done a lot of things as a community, and I think there's some really great references there. So all of that will be on the project website. People can run through that as they'd like. We like hearing that both online and in-person opportunities, because that's what we like to do. We like to give people a variety. We know it's not one size fits all. Not everybody can come to a meeting. Not everybody feels comfortable online. So to do a hybrid approach is really good. And we will work with staff to make sure that we can accommodate that with respect to the scope that we've got. I feel like there was one more thing that I wanted to reinforce. Maybe it was just I love the gamifying questions. That was a cool one. And we've got some tools that we can use on our website to do that. Yeah, I thought that the feedback was really interesting and good. So we'll look forward to more conversations with everyone as we go forward. I think that was it.
I think there was a comment too on us just doing the strengths and weaknesses.
Oh, yes, I have that written down.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. Because we wanted to do the opportunities and threats as a follow-up exercise with the Planning Commission. So we can do that as we go forward, or that can be part of our open house. So one thing that we might do is, and usually we would have, and the other thing was a timeline, to have that really laid out. So like, what are we going to talk about when? And we'll have that too for when we talk about housing, for example. We have a housing meeting with the workshop a workshop with the planning commission, we'll make sure that the community knows about that. So if they're interested in housing, they can come to that meeting. If they're more interested in transportation, but they don't care as much about housing, maybe they just want to come to the other one, or maybe they want to come to all of them. Everybody's welcome. So to have that, and we'll put that on the website as well, so people can kind of just track that. We would normally do a couple more discussions, or at least one more discussion with the planning commission on the goals, and if we want to do any refinements to those, and maybe looking at the future land use map, and then have an open house where we have different stations. We have a housing station, a transportation station, a commercial redevelopment station, and let people chime in on that. We can move that around. And if the planning commission thinks that maybe that would be better to do up front, and then we have our discussion about goals and objectives and future land use map, and then additional information is provided online for people to chime in on later, we can do that as well. So you don't have to decide that at this point, but maybe our next meeting, we talk about that.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can move it around so that it gives you the information that you need and gives the community a chance to feel like they're being heard, because that's important.
Sure.
Thanks.
I think we are, I don't mean to speak for you, but I think we are, and I think the community is really craving a timeline of events. So I agree that prioritizing the development of one of those and what goes first, what goes second, is a good thing to tackle next.
Okay.
I do want to point out a few more things to the effect of Mr. Commissioner Nordmo's comments earlier. I do think it's important that we make available the documents from, the results from our initial planning meeting hosted downstairs a few months ago. If also we could have the resources presented tonight made available online.
I meant to say that too. All of our presentations will go up on the website too, so if someone missed something, they can go to the website and see what the PowerPoint was from that meeting. Yep, we'll have all that.
And Hannah, thank you for addressing the OT part of SWOT. That was part of my notes for Mr. Ferguson's public comment that I forgot to articulate myself. So thank you for that. And thank you to all of you at the table for your contributions to tonight's meeting and putting so much effort into it and spending so much time talking about it. So thank you. Appreciate it.
One last thing, the project website is live right now, and it can be accessed at the homepage of the city website. It's on the front of the city's website, so if you do visit it, you can access the project devoted site.
Okay.
Very specifically, you will find below the main picture, the master plan update is on the far right next to the ordinances page.
Okay. Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Austin. Let's move along to number 9A, a site development update.
Thank you, Tim. I'm going to go kind of quick over tonight's site update because there weren't too many updates since we last spoke, and also because of the time.
Sure.
Just as you're aware, last night the Boulevard project has been discussed for 25 years. Pre-engineering work was now approved. The funds are still sitting there. They are devoted specifically to above-ground infrastructure for roadways. They can't be spent on any other type of project below ground. They must be spent on one of a project similar to the Boulevard. And hopefully during the master plan process, we can get an idea of what the community wants to see with that project and see where they want the roadway to proceed, especially with bringing the speed limit down. That's something I think all parties involved can get on board with. The only negative of this is that to go for any grant dollars, it requires pre-engineering work to be done. Planning must be done prior to any type of shovel in the ground funding, so that does delay the process for that step. When it comes to our current sites in the city that are being developed, the only one I want to touch on is Middle East Cross Street. So the last time we were all here in November, the owner requested approval for a changed use for the retail space, 1,800 square feet to the north, so that they could expand the dining room, and you guys approved that. So they have submitted a permit, and that is in process. And also, Holy Burger, who had put up their sign without getting a sign permit that had, we did get that resolved with them, and they are now in alignment and in compliance with the city. So all the other projects are also underway in 26600 Southfield Road, Holbrook Auto Parts. They also got a variance for a sign because the way the city's zoning or sign ordinance is written, it's more for buildings that are split up into multi-unit, and because the property owner merged all the units into one, they asked for a variance for additional signage area, and they were approved. They submitted a sign application, and it was approved on December 5th. I reviewed it and approved it with their contractor. So two other items I wanted to speak with you about is that National Main Street, in alliance with General Motors, it has a grant available. They give out 5 $60,000 grants to communities across the nation that are housed in a county that also has a General Motors facility. And because Oakland County has numerous of those, we are going to be applying for a grant for signage on the roadway for 11 Mile. The intersections at Lathrup Boulevard and Southfield Road are very chaotic, and they are not very clear. You have, at Lathrup Boulevard, you have cars coming off at highway speed off of a turn on 696, and you have people, when they're coming up the ramp, you have people going 25 down the service drive. They treat the stop sign, unfortunately, like a yield sign, and not too far up, maybe 30, 40 yards, there is Lathrup Boulevard that intersects, and there's no crossing marks. There's very little to show people that there is traffic intersecting. So Tom and I are currently working with existing engineering documents from our engineering contractor to put an application together for markings there, as well as Southfield Road in 11 Mile. There is data from SimCog that shows that the number of traffics have decreased, accidents, but the injury rate and the severity of injury has increased. So we would like to have markings that show that the 2 lanes on the inside turn. A lot of people don't realize both of those lanes turn. And we're going to also work with our engineering firm to see what else we can put in that application to provide more safety for vehicles and pedestrians in those areas of our district. The second is a new opportunity for us that we are excited to explore. The Michigan Municipal League, in coordination with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and with Main Street Oakland County, reached out to us. There is a cohort they're putting together to work with a consultant who is nationally renowned. She used to be chief of staff at the Environmental Protection Agency's Smart Growth Program. Her firm works with about 5 to 6 cohorts a year across the country, but with Michigan Economic Development Corporation in coordination with the state are bringing in her firm to select 6 communities in Southeast Michigan to go through a 10 months? 10 month training program where 3 to 4 partners from the city and other organizations would work together to create a economic development strategy for the downtown. Not one that just is on paper, but one that is actually an action plan. So part of the sessions is actually implementing steps, the implementation steps. So, and it's no cost for the city. We are speaking with Michigan Economic Development Corporation to get more information on it, because I think a lot of the ideas that they're promoting would fit with our corridor, especially with the challenges we face with the speed, as well as 5 lanes, the walkability intersected by Southfield, as well as an expressway. So we're going to work with them. One of their main concepts is we're calling it maker spaces. It's places where products like food, could be personal care products, biotech that are produced on site, packaged, and then sold in a retail location. And I think many of the buildings we have and property owners would be on board with that type of development, it would bring more employment and also decrease the vacancy rate. So we're really excited about that. We're setting up a meeting with MEDC to talk with them and express our interest, and also to explain to them why we think they should select Lathrup Village to be one of those cohorts. Yeah, Joe?
Would this be considered a Sigma 6 lean project for you guys?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's something I can look into. Yep. And also the DDA-owned parcel just to the north of us, one of the triangles, the DDA Board of Directors gave me the direction to work with a urban nursery. There is a woman who is a Southfield resident who lives less than a mile from here, who currently works for the state in Plymouth for a nursery there. She wants to do that here, and she wants to grow native fruit, vegetables, and herbs on the triangle, which would preserve the green space as well as help with the stormwater management, because a lot of that water would be used on site. So hopefully we can get that going and get that proceeding. I'm currently in negotiations with her on a lease. And that's all I got today, Chairman.
Any other questions or discussion about Austin's updates? Very good. Well, I know a lot of people, particularly who hates the merging of 696 off-bound ramp at Lathrup Boulevard. So I appreciate your and Tom's proactivity on figuring out some solution to relieve that a bit. I know
If
it's a
I have to
mess.
honk at one more person when I come off of 696, I'm going to scream.
And it needs to be the project needs to be completed by the end of November 2026. So this is a project that really is just roadway markings, and we believe could be done by this time next year.
Sure.
Yeah.
One more quick question. You said roadway markings, but right at Southfield and 696, those 2 lanes that go
Mhm.
around, are you looking at maybe on the bottom of the light itself, putting the little signs that say?
That's a good idea as well. We were
Yeah.
imagining putting those arrows on the roadway themselves, so when a driver was looking forward, they would see it and then follow that path. But maybe having both, where there's a wire going between the signal posts with that type of signage as well, both would be able to be like a multimedia way of interfacing with the drivers.
And the reason I say that is because if you're talking about semis that come off there, a lot of semis come off there, and you got a bunch of traffic and they're on the roadway, they're not gonna
Yes.
see the road markings, but they will see the signage at the top that says, these 2 lanes turn, or this one goes straight, or whatever the case
I think that
may
is a
be.
great idea. Yeah, to have both would really help with drivers, especially with vehicles that are so high up these days, with SUVs. So both those type of drivers would benefit.
NTSB data, I believe, shows that the road markings was the most effective, but if there is enough feedback that says that the signs would be effective also, we can definitely shoot for both.
Sounds good.
Any other feedback or discussion? Questions? I have a few matters of general communication that I'll go through very quickly. I know we've been here a long time, thank you. First and foremost, this is something to put a pin in for later, but I think many of us learned the news that in the city of Southfield, they've approved plans for a data center along Inkster Road. Of course, looking around our small city, I don't know where something like that might be, but it might be worth our time to consider how we look to the future of data centers like those and the possibility that they might try at some point to fit in here. So a discussion topic for a future date. Secondly, we got some news out of the city of Sterling Heights that they too, like the city of Grosse Pointe Farms and now Lathrup Village, are working to enact an ordinance. I've been decorating Christmas trees. Working to enact an ordinance to regulate cryptocurrency ATMs. So it's nice to see that other municipalities in Southeast Michigan have followed the lead that Grosse Pointe Farms and then Lathrup Village started. Third, as everybody up here knows, when Chairman Stansbury chose not to renew his term on the Planning Commission a few months ago, we scrambled to determine who among us would serve as chairperson and serve in the other roles beyond stock-issued planning commissioner. I'm hereby announcing to the three of you that my ego is not attached to this role at all. I would be very happy to sit in any of these seats. So our charter does, I don't know if it's the charter, some document requires us to determine our leadership every January. And if any of you, or if you're watching Commissioners Scussel and Clark, if any of you are interested in this seat, I'm more than happy to let you have a shot at running the meetings. Again, my ego's not attached to it at all, so give some thought to that, please. And lastly, before any of you perhaps have anything to say, I just want to extend a thank you again to Giffords-Webster and our city staff for putting on this meeting tonight, and also for those of you who've chosen to attend in the audience and watch at home. This was a long meeting, but I feel like we got through a lot and asked a lot of good questions and hopefully satisfied at least my stated goal at the beginning of having an open mind and starting to poke and prod and ask good preliminary questions about a process that I'm sure will evolve quite a bit going forward. So thank you for tonight, but also thank you for a really fun and exciting year on the Planning Commission. It's been my first full year on the Planning Commission, and I've really enjoyed my time, and I've really enjoyed working with the three of you and those of us who aren't here tonight, and also Attorney Baker, our clerk, and our DDA folks. So thank you and happy holidays. Anybody else want to add anything?
You get to keep your position.
We'll see. There might be a coup. Who knows? All righty. Anybody else? All right. Hearing none, we'll adjourn. Adjourn? So moved and seconded?
Second.
Hearing a motion that's seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No? We're adjourned. Thank you. I haven't gotten to use this yet.
We did it right.